Hola, soy Dora. Wait, no, wrong Dora. In today's episode of This Month in GRC, we're talking about the Digital Operation Resilience Act, the EU regulation that has started applying to financial companies as of 17th January 2025. We're going to cover what DORA is, why it's important, what it contains, who it applies to, and how to get compliant with it. Let's start off with what is DORA. To understand DORA, we first need to understand ICT, or Information and Communications Technology, and the risks it creates. ICT is an umbrella term for the infrastructure and components that enable modern computing, such as hardware, software, networking units, cloud computing, communications technology, and more. Over the last 10-15 years, the financial sector, much like us, the customers, have grown increasingly reliant on ICT. But with the increased use of ICT tools and systems to deliver critical financial services comes increased risk, particularly through these third parties that provide ICT services to the financial institutions. One of the reasons the status quo of third-party ICT risk is particularly dangerous to financial entities such as banks, insurance companies, trading platforms, and more is because ICT service providers are not necessarily subject to the same regulatory frameworks as the entities of themselves. And should these third-party providers go down, the entire financial sector can go down with it, and by extension, economies at large. So, to combat this, the Digital Operational Resilience Act outlines certain principles and criteria to ensure that financial entities can successfully withstand, respond to, and recover from ICT-related cyber threats that materialize across their supply chain. It emphasizes operational resilience and the need to shift from a narrow risk prevention or loss mitigation approach to a broader, more proactive operational risk management approach. And the EU is very, very serious about this. Similar to GDPR, non-compliance with DORA comes with staggering repercussions. Non-compliant organizations can incur fines of up to 2% of their annual global turnover, or 10 million euros, whichever is higher. Third-party organizations can face fines of up to 1% of their daily average global turnover for each day of non-compliance for up to 6 months. On top of this, regulatory bodies can also suspend company operations for non-compliance, effectively halting business, representing an even larger penalty than the fines alone. Interestingly, DORA also includes individual liability for business leaders for their firm's compliance failures, who can receive a maximum penalty of up to 1 million euros. So, clearly there's a lot at stake. Let's try to understand more about what DORA contains and what it asks companies to do. With DORA, the EU aims to set a single regulatory framework incorporating all the previous guidelines as well as international best practices in cyber resilience and ICT risk management into one. DORA is broken down into 5 core pillars: ICT-related risk management, ICT-related incident reporting, digital operational resilience testing, ICT third-party risk, and information sharing. Let's start with 1. As the name implies, DORA asks companies to manage ICT-related risks. This includes, but is not limited to, assessing vendors, outlining control protocols, establishing ICT practices for vendors and sub-vendors, developing ICT systems based on secure networks, encrypted databases, robust backup policies, and more. For 2, DORA sets new benchmarks. Where it used to be that incident responding could take weeks and months, we're now talking about hours and days. DORA mandates that companies report ICT-related incidents within 24 hours of its discovery and compile and submit intermediate reports of the breach within 72 hours. There must also be a mandatory final report that follows, which contains resolutions and learnings from the event. Numero 3. DORA mandates financial institutions to test their resilience against evolving threats regularly and monitor their recovery and mitigation efficacy. Companies are advised to do this by simulating adverse events and scenarios like phishing attacks, ransomware attacks, system outages, escalated privilege attacks, and more, so as to identify which links in their system are most susceptible to failure. 4. DORA mandates that the primary buyer of ICT services pushes vendors into diligence and only partners with an external provider after due diligence of their security posture. For this, businesses need to assess any risks that a partnership brings and develop a containment plan to curb the fallout in case of an incident. And finally, 5. The battle against threats is not won alone. And so DORA encourages financial institutions to share information on adversaries, breaches, and ways to combat them. This is done with the aim to not only strengthen individual institutions, but also the ecosystem at large. So, who does DORA apply to? DORA, much like GDPR, on paper, seems like it only applies to institutions in the EU, in this case the institutions being financial entities and ICT providers. However, there's a couple of things to note. 1, Entities that service European customers must also be compliant, regardless of geography, such as international banks with European customers. Furthermore, non-EU firms that provide ICT services to European financial entities must also comply with DORA, assuming their services impact the financial entity's operational resilience. 2. Compliance is often a race to the top. Just as CCPA was launched after GDPR, expect several existing bodies such as NIST to start adopting DORA's best practices into their fold. All of these factors very quickly turn a geography-specific framework into a global one. So if you do business or plan to do business in the EU, you should be compliant as soon as possible. And now for the most important part. How does one get DORA compliant? Like I mentioned earlier, a key focus area for DORA is operational resilience and the need to shift to a broader, more proactive operational risk management approach. This is reflective of a change that the industry has been seeing for several years now, a move from point-in-time compliance to continuous monitoring. To that end, consider Spinto. Spinto is a compliance automation platform, and it bears expert guidance with out-of-the-box security templates, automation-first workflows, and built-in management tools to streamline and map your path to DORA compliance. From robust risk management and nuanced vendor due diligence to auditable incident reporting and version policy controls, Spinto is packed with features to ensure reliance isn't just achieved, it's fully operationalized, embedded, and demonstrable. If you would like to get DORA compliant, click the link in the description in the comment section below to talk to one of Spinto's DORA experts and get started today.